Rev up your engine. This all GMC diesel, the guy bought it with like 7,500 miles. Now he's got over 200,000 miles on it, and he's been pretty happy with the vehicle. Now everybody knows I'm not a GM fan, but there's two exceptions with this vehicle. One, it's a GMC 2500. Even today, they're much better made than the crappy 1500 Silverados. They just build them better. And number two, this is a 2008 diesel when they were actually making them better. And as you can see on the side of this one, it's got an Ellison transmission. All those miles, still the original engine, the original tranny. It doesn't burn oil. The only thing that he had a hassle with was getting all wet inside. So his mechanic searched through and he found out the seal was gone inside the door. So he did that over and it doesn't leak anymore. Now, this thing lives in Massachusetts. The first thing I'm going to do is look under it to see how much rust is done to this thing. Well, you can see he's coated the frame. It is solid. Body's not rusted. It's four-wheel drive. It's got the big V8 GM diesel engine in it. And as I said, it hadn't had any problems. 200,000 miles. Doesn't burn any oil. But understand one thing, it's an 08. They made them better then. The modern ones, I've seen people have nothing but problems with them as they go on. All the complex electronics, all the stupid anti-pollution equipment that these old ones didn't have on it. An old thing like this, in Massachusetts, it's not rusted out and it's still running that good. You gotta say, he got his money's worth. Okay, and I showed you the frame. Well, he's got a friend, he puts on this thing called fluid film. Paid 400 bucks, but he's only done it once. And you can see it's in immaculate shape, so that's definitely worth doing if you live in a salt-covered area, because this thing is still excellent underneath. They're not like the old ones that rusted away. You can see the fenders, the fender wells, they're not all rotting away. Truck like this could last probably 1,000,000 miles if you took care of it. He's towed a two-car carrier, Massachusetts and Florida back before. Could tow an awful lot. The rear cap on. You can see. He's got a lot of junk in here. This is a serious working truck. This isn't a toy. Now, one of the reasons this thing lasts so long is it was made in Flint, Michigan. Tells you the number here, but here they tell you made it in Flint. So, we got the scan tool and we're going to see what kind of shape it's in mechanically and electrically. Got an OBD plug just like any other car. It's now communicating. It already knows what it is. Super fast. We're going to do a standalone diagnosis. Read the VIN even though it's old. Knows it's 6.6 liter. Okay. And it's got manual AC. Doesn't have a manual transfer case. You see it's got the topology here, so we'll scan all the topology. And while we are, we can see, you know, basic truck. The seats are starting to fall apart because it's old, so they put seat covers on them, but he's got the seats up in the back because he carries it as a work truck. And it's still got the DVD player in it. And a sunroof. It's top of the line, right? Dual CD player. There's the CDs. Going through all the topology of the different CAN systems. We'll see what's got problems. A few of them up here we're going to analyze. And for an old truck, hey, it's held up quite well. 200-something thousand miles. So we'll check it out. Transfer case module has a code. Lost communication with TCM, lost communication with BCM, and the electronic brake control says lost communications now. He has no problems with the system. You replace a battery in a car, you gotta reset the stuff. No one ever reset it. I'm gonna reset it now. Single code it has our ECU, RAM error, PROM error for door switches. They all work perfectly fine. So what we're gonna do is we're going to erase them all. Now, as you can see, they're all gone, which means they're not hard codes. If they were hard codes, they erase, but they'd immediately come right back. They would not go away. They wouldn't go green. So there's nothing serious wrong. I think a lot of it was just because the battery was replaced. No one ever reset anything. Now, start this diesel up. Starts right up, and we're going to look at live data. We got all kinds of things we can look at. Make your head spin. Now, as you can hear, it's a diesel, but it's not particularly loud. And we'll start looking at the data. No problems with the globe plug system. Fuel rail pressure registered. The command is good. Timing's good. Now, this is a diesel, and as such, of course, doesn't have an ignition system. There's not much adjustable anything. But hey, he's got 200-something thousand miles on it. Still running perfectly fine. Doesn't burn oil. Shifts like a dream. Transmission data. The live data on the transmission. Well, that's all fine, and we can even check out the exhaust treatment. All the data is normal. It's black. So if there is a problem in that system, you can use a machine like this, and you can see 5-volt reference. Is it right? in each circuit, or is it not? Then you can test them if you need to test them. Here's all the extra tests you can do just on the anti-pollution system. Now, maybe an old truck, so it's got a lot of computer stuff on it, but this thing is held up quite remarkably for him. Like I say, it's a GMC, got an Allison automatic transmission, great transmission. All the data seems perfectly fine on this thing. It's held up. I don't see this with the newer ones. I just personally don't. I have customers who buy 2,500 GMCs, but they buy the gasoline version. They don't buy the diesel. They don't like the diesel version. In this case, this old diesel, hey, we'll take it for a spin, but so far it's held up remarkably. It's a big old truck. It's a diesel. No backup because it's an old truck. So we got to look. He's got a lot of junk in there. So we use the side mirrors in this case. There's so much junk in the back to see. Notice it's a diesel, but smooth as can be. Does not shake and rattle when it's idling. And it's a big truck, so we're not really going to have to worry about going over the speed bump here. Whee! Big heavy truck's going to go over that. Check it out. It's even got some wood over here. Maybe it's actually plastic though. Kind of sounds like plastic. Looks like wood, but sure sounds like plastic to me. Now, it's a big old heavy truck, right? It's not going to be a racing truck, but it's got a lot of torque for pulling and hauling stuff. You can see he's got junk all over the place. It's his work truck. So we'll get up to our little road in the sky here. Nobody's coming to the left. Nobody's coming to the right. Here we go. We'll floor it. It's still got some pickup to it. Hey, maybe a diesel, but it's still a V8 engine. Look, you step on the gas. This thing goes once it kicks down. Shifts good. Hey, this thing's got a lot of guts to it. Even though it's a diesel, it's no slow diesel. That's the thing about V8 engines, okay? V8 engines have a lot of torque, so they can take off. 200,000 miles later, the AC's still freezing cold, and he hasn't done anything to it. And just listen to that engine, it's still purrs like you're kidding. Let's just say they don't make them like they used to. Here we go. We don't have to worry about not being able to take off fast enough. This thing's got plenty of get up and go to it. And now for the bad news. He averages about 15.5 miles a gallon, which is what these things get. Realize, it's a big, heavy vehicle. And yes, it's a diesel engine. People think, oh, diesel engines get phenomenal gas mileage. Only if you have little bitty ones like in a Volkswagen, where they can get 60, 70 miles a gallon with tiny little engines. This is a huge V8 engine. So, that's what you get. But you can pull things with it. You can go wherever you want. Four-wheel drive, he's not going to get stuck anywhere. 200-something thousand miles. They don't make these things like they used to. If I was going to get a diesel truck and I found an old one like this, in this kind of shape, I'd snap it up. I wouldn't care. Even if I didn't need it, I'd store it in Tennessee somewhere, put it out in the country, because they don't make them like they used to. When the new ones are all in the junkyard, these old ones will still keep going if you just have basic maintenance like he did with the thing. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Matthew F. says, should I buy a hybrid Ford F-150 or stick with a plain old V8? Well, if I were you, I'd stick to the V8. The hybrids, when they do break, and it's a Ford, you know it's going to break at some point in time, cost a fortune to repair. I was at a shop the other day. He was working on a hybrid, and he showed me that he had to replace the sensor. It would not charge the battery because the sensor was bad, and the computer systems then say, oh, can't charge the battery, too dangerous, blah, blah, blah. Guy had to tow it into his shop. He said, Scotty, take a look at this. So I go and take a look at it. He had to drop the entire bottom of the vehicle where the battery was, disconnect the cooling system, have a gigantic lift to pick it up, and then a big old lift under it to hold the battery. Then he had the fancy computer system that cost him $6 grand, do a bunch of tests, and then said, okay, it's the stupid sensor, right? So he realizes, am I going to put that sensor on, put all that back together again, and then it doesn't fix it? So then he's got to rehook a bunch of the electrical connections, then test it, and it said, okay, it passes. Now that did fix it, and put it all back together. It's talking about over $2,000 labor to change a part that was $80. And that's how those hybrids are. And they will break, especially being Fords. Now, if it was a Toyota hybrid, I'd say, nah, they usually don't break till they get over 200,000 miles or something. The Fords, no, it's a different story. I would not buy one of those if I were you. That level of technology is so high, very few people know how to work on them. The parts cost a fortune because there's very little aftermarket for them. So it's not like you had a vehicle that F-150 V8, the parts have been available for ages, they made them for years, you can always get aftermarket parts. Forget it on the hybrid stuff. You're talking about dealer-only parts that are just outrageously expensive. I'd get the V8 if I were you. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.